Hi, this is Cheryl McQueen with Bello's Designs. This video tutorial features a very easy card to make with a minimal of colors. It is a peaceful winter scene that can be used for a holiday card or makes a great masculine card. I just want to point out that this is actually a picture of the card that I made as a sample. I ended up sending this to someone for our card exchange recently. And then later on I got to thinking, gosh, that'll make a really great video tutorial because it's a simple, easy one to do. So all I've got is a photo of the card, so I can give you a general idea of what it looks like, but then you can see what it looks like when we actually get done making it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the supplies that I'll be using today. We will start out with a multifarious smooth and supreme cardstock. This one has been cut to 3.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches. Then we will create a frame that we will mount our art card onto. This has been cut to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And then for our card base, I just simply took an 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I cut that in half to create this piece that we then folded in half. We will actually only be using one stamp today. It's going to be the Nellie's Choice, and this one is called Deer in Forest. The number is IFS 017. We'll only be using a handful of colors as well. I am using the distressed inks today. I'm going to be using Stormy Sky and Chipped Sapphire, Vintage Photo, Walnut Stain, and the Black Soot. For our stamping ink, I'm going to use VersaFine Clair Nocturne. To help to get our borders around the card, I'm going to be using the Sweet Poppy low tack tape, or you could use the painter's tape that if you have a very low tack one, and this will help us to be able to get a little bit of a frame around our stamped piece. You'll also need to have a water sprayer or some water on hand, as well as a fine paint brush. I will be using my stamping platform today. I have a sticky grid on that, as you can see there. That way I can stick the card down and I don't have to worry about using magnets. And then you'll just want to have some paper glue or an adhesive running tape, something on hand so that we can put our card together. All right, so let's get started working on this card. All right, so start out our project. We're going to go ahead and get out our stamping platform right away. I'm going to remove some of these pieces that I use to sometimes block off the edges. So we're going to take our multifarious cardstock and we're going to lay that down on our stamping platform. Now, I think what I want to do is, do you see there's some grids on the stamping platform? Let's go ahead and line the top of our card up with that grid, because what we're going to want to do is do our tape at 1/4 inch. And since this is gridded off, the stamping, the sticky grid is gridded off in 1/4 inches, this is going to work out great for us. So what we're going to do is take a piece of our Sweet Poppy tape, and we're going to line that up across the top of our card at the 1/4 inch mark. And just tape that off. We're going to do the same thing at the bottom. And tape that down. Now, if you'd like to, you can tape off the edges, but the way that the size is on our stamp, it actually naturally has the 1/4 inch difference on each side. So now what I want to do is I want to lay my stamp down so that I've got those even 1/4 inch edges on the right and the left hand side, and this is going to overlap the top piece, and actually the tree bases will be just above the bottom piece. So just center your stamp onto your card, and then we will take our Versafine Clair Nocturne and stamp the image. Now I like to get a really crisp image, so I may end up stamping this twice. Let's see how good of an image we get with our first try. That is one of the reasons that I really enjoy using a stamping platform, is that if I don't like my first impression, I can always go back in and make a second one. Alright, let's see how that works. Alright, make sure you get good solid contact. Because this is so finely detailed, sometimes you do need that second stamping. But let's see how this works the first time around. Alright, that's not too bad of an image, but I do see where it has some of these very fine areas just don't show up quite as dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just do one more little stamping just to get that really nice, sharp, crisp image. Okay, there we go. And that's a really nice, good image that we can work with here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this from my stamping platform so that we can begin the painting process, but I'm going to leave these pieces of tape on my cardstock. So when I pull off my card, as you can see here, I'm just going to leave those pieces of tape on. So let's set the stamping platform to the side, and then I'm just going to set down my project. You can remove them if you want, but sometimes I go up above the line there when I'm doing my painting, and since I want to keep my nice crisp border, I'm going to leave those the way they are. Alright, so now we will go to starting with our painting, and this is where your water is going to come in. And I'm going to scoot over just a tiny little bit so you can kind of see my workspace that I've got here. And I can even go ahead and zoom this out just a little bit so you can see a little bit of the overall view. So we'll start out by painting our deer. I'm going to take the vintage photo, and this one I am going to actually paint the entire body of our deer, and then we'll add highlights with our walnut stain. Okay, so for our walnut stain, we are just going to take that, and let me go ahead and just wipe up. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a baby wipe and have that on hand so that we can wipe up our table. Clean that up before we lay another color down. So we'll do our walnut stain in the same fashion. And with the walnut stain, what we're going to want to do is, I'm going to go ahead and actually zoom that back in. I think you can see it a little bit easier that way. You see how it naturally has markings in the stamp that show where the shadowing goes? That's where we're going to put our walnut stain. So add a little bit of water, dab into that, pick up some of the walnut stain, and then just paint the areas that are darkened in with marks naturally in the stamp. So there you can see how easily it is to go ahead and get your shadowing just by following the marks that they already have on the stamp. Alright, so now we'll clean that up. And this is where you can either choose to use a marker or you can use your black soot. I just want to use something a little bit darker for the horns, the rack on the deer there. You just have to be very careful. To fill in just in that little area. If it's easier for you to use a marker or a color pencil, then you can certainly do that. In fact, this entire project, if you prefer, you can always do markers or pencils. I just love painting, and so this just gives me a little bit of that enjoyment to use my paintbrush to do the details. Okay, so now we've got our deer complete. That's all there is to that. And now we're going to move on to filling in the sky background behind our birch trees. To start out with, I'm going to take my Stormy sky. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill in all solidly just with this Stormy sky to get our background color started. And then we'll go back in and we will add the shadows, probably just just a half of the way up, maybe a little bit less, to get the effect of the shadows in the trees lower, closer to the ground, where it's definitely going to be a little bit darker. So I will probably speed up the video at this point because it will take a few minutes to do all of the painting in. But you can obviously get the idea of what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so now we have kind of a base down of just a lighter shade of blue. So now we're going to go back in with our chip sapphire and we're going to fill in some shadows to give this just a little bit of more of a dimensional look. So I'm going to clean up My little work surface there, and now we're going to move on to our chipped sapphire. So the same process, put some chipped sapphire down on the table, work surface, a little bit of water, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this chipped sapphire and we're just going to kind of do it down here on the bottom section of our woods, because what we want to do is show that shadowing that's usually closer to the ground, because obviously as we go up the sun will filter through the trees a lot more, but as we're closer to the ground then the shadows are a little bit denser. Okay, so I've just gone in there, as you can see, hopefully with the chipped sapphire, just to give that little bit of shadowing. So now what we're going to want to do is go ahead and give just a little bit of filling in with some shadows around the base of the trees. So let's go ahead and wipe this up and go with our black soot. And with the black soot, you need to be careful that you don't get it too dark, so be sure that you've got plenty of water. Clean the blue out of my brush. Put just a little water down in here. And then I'm probably just going to get just a tiny little bitty dab so that it starts out very light. We can always go darker if we need to. But as you see in the base of the trees here, they've got some shadows where the trunk area kind of meets. So what we're going to do is just go in and lightly add some of this black soot and add those shadows in to delineate the kinds of dips that you get in the trees at the base of the trunks there. So just go in and lightly put that in. If you later on feel like that you need to come back to that particular tree trunk and make it a little darker, you can do that. But as I said, let's start out fairly light, because a light touch is really all you really need for this part. All right. So now that's all we really need to do with that part. Let's go up to where the markings are on the birch trees and go ahead and add in just a little bit of shading on around those as well. When we add in the black soot around those areas there, it also kind of gives a little bit of shadows around the edges of the tree and allows it to look like it's more round and not quite so flat. So if it goes out past where you see your little markings for the birch part marks, don't worry about that, because that actually we might even add some in there, gives a little bit of dimension and allows those trees to look like they're a little bit more rounded. Maybe a little hard to see as we're doing them on the video, but as you work on your card, you will see that by adding just these little touches of shadowing in the ink there, that it really helps to give it a little bit more realistic and less flat look. So just kind of use your judgment as you're doing it as to how much you want to add in. You definitely don't want to overwhelm the white, because the birch trees are white, but that just a little bit of shadowing will really help to create the reality. Okay, so once we've got that done, we are down to the little final part of what we're going to do painting in on, and that is to add just a little bit of shadow into our snow. So I'm going to make sure that I get all the black out of my paintbrush, because what I'd like to do is go back now with the stormy sky, and we're going to use that to create some of the, just a little bit of a hint of where the snow is. So at the base of our tree, we're just going to kind of add just a few little shadows in the snow. We'll go ahead and kind of put it here at the base as well. And we're going to bring just a tiny little bit of it, not a whole lot, but just a little bit, just to get a little bit of the shadow of the deer as well. We don't even necessarily want that shadow to look like the shape of the deer, just to get the impression that his shadow is there, and give once again give it the dimension and the reality. Okay, so now this just kind of looks more like our snow is kind of piled up around the bases of our trees. And then now we just want to add just a few little dashes to give the appearance of like some little snow drifts. So just add in some little hills and dashes of snow drifts just in a few little random places. Again, by doing this, we're just creating a little more realism. Okay, and that's it. That's all we're going to do when it comes to coloring in our picture. It's very, very simple and very basic. So it's not something that you have to worry about spending lots and lots of time on. So now we're just going to remove our tape. And there you see that we have got a natural border. Let's see if I can zoom that in just maybe a little hair for you to see. So we've got that natural border around the edge that just kind of helps to frame it out. And so with this point, we're ready to go ahead and put our card together. Okay, so putting our card together is just really a very basic, simple thing. First, we'll take our frame piece, take your art card, turn it over, and you can either, like I said, use a crafter's tape, or you can use a glue. Let's go ahead and zoom this back out just a hair. Alright, sorry about that. We're back now. We had our camera not wanting to stay autofocused, so I had to get that back where it was supposed to be. So back on track now for us to go ahead and put our card together. So with my running tape, I'm just going to run it on all the edges. If you use a glue, obviously you can do that. Put some in the center if you like. And let me grab really quickly just a piece of paper so that we can clearly see our black piece there. And then we are just going to center that. Onto our black piece there. And then we will grab our card base and we're going to do the same thing. So we will take our tape and get that lined up and mount it onto our card base. And there we have our very lovely, simple deer in the birch trees. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorial today. If you need a quick and easy card, this is a great project and it's fun to do. And if you, especially if you love to paint, which I do. So this is just a fun, quick project to do. Again, remember, if you would like to use markers or your color pencils, whatever you like, this is just, again, an easy project for you to enjoy for a winter-themed card. Be sure to check out the design team page for more video tutorials at delbellosdesigns.com. Have a great day.